Hello, everybody. We are hoping this video is going to be a little more not mainstream, streamlined because we actually have a few more characters to talk about and not two that we already know pretty much where they are anyway. So, like the last one, I'm going to let Jordan take it away because he knows more about the subject than I do. Go!
Okay. Um, so for Legion, because we're working our way backwards, we've got five characters that I think we should talk about. Um, one of which we already know where they are in the Shadowlands. So we'll start there, and that's Ysera. Ysera is in Ardenweald. Which do you want to explain what exactly Ardenweald is and what that means?
So, when it comes to Ardenweald, the people that usually get sent there by the Arbiter when they pass away is in the cooler way. That's where old god, sorry, not old. I said did that last time. It's where wild gods and Loas go when they die, and so pretty much they're used to be kind of rejuvenated and healed in a sense by the Amina.
Also,
Anima,
anima.
Amin,
Also,
Anima.
isn't it people associated with nature too?
Exactly what I was gonna come up with as well. It's definitely for people that are also very in tone with nature. So, in my guess, just to kind of set a good standard, if Malfurion were to die, he would absolutely go somewhere like Ardenweald because
Okay.
he's the Mister Druid
Yeah.
of Azeroth.
Caleb's done more looking into the zones of Shadowlands and what that means than I have. I haven't done as much, but okay. So yeah, Ysera's there. That's been a thing in the alpha already. So there's not a whole lot to say about where she is. That being said, for anyone whose memory doesn't serve them, yeah, she died in Legion. So poor Ysera. And if you're wondering how, because if you haven't been around, to play the game in a while, in Cataclysm, all the aspects lost their immortality. So unfortunately, rip Ysera. Um, the next one I wanted to talk about, we got five to talk about. These next two, I think, pretty easy because everybody knows about this. So we'll start with Vol'jin, who was one of my favorite characters for the longest time. Um, you know, Rip Vol'jin too. I really liked Vol'jin, and I was sad to see them do him dirty like that. That being said, he got some cool story in BFA. Doesn't seem like what would you say he's in the Shadowlands?
From what it seems like, I would be surprised if he's in the Shadowlands. And well, actually, let me rephrase
Yeah,
that.
same.
I'd be surprised if he is in the Shadowlands as somebody who has been placed somewhere without his choosing. If he's in Shadowlands, I could see him figuring a way to get there himself.
Yeah, if
But
nothing more,
that's it.
he's definitely not in the mall.
No, he's definitely not in the mall, and that's one of the coolest mysteries of BFA is like, why the heck is this guy here? And heck, even the Lich King didn't even know. So
Yeah, nobody knew, and they were all really weirded out by him like walking around. And the only real like hints we got at it was that he was touched by the hand of valor, which just seems like it's associated with Odin, based on that. So I don't know. That one's a strange one. Hopefully we'll find out a lot more in in Shadowlands. Um, the next one though is Varian Rin. Now with him, and we're kind of like speculating where these people would be if you haven't caught on to that between last video and this one. But Varian, I have an idea for where I think he is, but why don't you explain Maldraxxus and Revendreth as well?
um so when it comes to Maldraxxus, that is genuinely the place to be for a warrior, for a fighter that would never yield, never back down, who just kept going. So you could imagine that's anybody that had really had anything to do with, I would say, just either being anything from courageous to just being someone that's just a good soldier. I would say, a good way to put it.
Yeah, and then
Um,
Revendreth.
and for Revendreth, that's definitely how I would like to put it. Is that's just a step above the Maw. So if you were a bad person, but you weren't a horrible person, like Lich King wise,
Wasn't it
um,
like people who are proud from what I saw too?
yeah. So if you're definitely very proud, very prideful of yourself, and had you've definitely had a some good amount of sins throughout your life, you would be sent there before being sent anywhere else. So from what it seems like, Revendreth is the maw for people that can be redeemed.
So Kelthus is there. We know that.
Yes.
And he was very arrogant. Um, so as far as Varian, I mean, I think he's in Maldraxxus. Now, granted, they've hinted at there being other realms, so there could be another realm that actually fits him better. But of the ones we know, I really feel like he would be in Maldraxxus. What do you think?
Yeah, I would definitely say Maldraxxus. Now, I would love to say something like Bastion because well yeah, cuz he's a good king in a sense, but he's definitely been more of a fighter, especially if you look into his lore and that he was split in two. And one was his passive self, and the other was his warrior self, and that he was even more vicious and a gladiator, pretty much. He is someone who wouldn't back down. He got killed by Gul'dan, like face to face, pretty much,
Yep.
because he's like, I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah,
And it was great.
he gave up his life for his men.
Mm hmm.
Um, literally just hands a note to Gen and is like, "Yo, give this to my son. See ya," and jumps off the airship. That was a really cool. Yeah, that was a really
Oh,
cool
it was so
cutscene. I
cool.
was sad, but it was cool. Um, and then yeah, so I would say I think Maldraxxus. Who knows? For sure. So the next one that I want to talk about now, keep in mind, Caleb and I have talked about this other than the last one, so I'm saving it for last on purpose because I don't even think he's thought about this person. But anyway, so the next one we wanted to talk about was Tyrion Forgeling. Now Tyrion, he. What do you think? Let's say that first. I think it's pretty obvious, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say considering he's from what it sounds like he's well, hmm. I want to say Bastion and I think that's what you're thinking too, but he also was pretty darn relentless. Like he stood his ground against the Death Knights at Light's Hope Chapel. So it's kind of for me it's a little hard, but I would say Bastion if
I
anything.
actually think it might be Maldraxxus, and maybe you don't know this about him, but one of the things he did as a younger man that actually so backstory on Tyrion, you may not know as much about him. So I'll throw this to you for you and then anybody else who's listening who doesn't know a lot about Tyrion. Tyrion was one of the
Okay.
first 5 paladins. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, when they created the paladins, there were 5 of them, and he was one of the 5. He and Turalyon was one of the other ones, by the way.
Who?
He's still in game. Turalyon,
Turalyon. Okay, yeah.
yeah, Turalyon was another one. But in his younger days, actually helped save. Do you know Eitrick? Eitrick, he's a orc.
I think I've heard it pronounced Etrig, but that's
Oh,
as
it might
far
be
as I
Eitrick.
know. That's that. I don't
Yeah,
know
you know
anything
what?
else
You're right.
besides
It's
him.
Eitrick. So that's my mistake. It's Eitrick. Um, he actually saved his life, and that was like a big no-no. Um, because he wouldn't back down on the fact that yeah, this guy's an orc, but he's a person too, and he's a good person. You know, he doesn't deserve to be treated terribly just because of his race. And he actually, I think, lost. I can't couldn't tell you what he was in charge of or whatever it was, but he lost his position over it, and he would not back down. So I actually think it's Maldraxxus. I don't think it's Bastion. I think if we run into him, he'll be in Maldraxxus, or again, going back to Varian, maybe a different place, um, because you know there could be other realms that we don't know about. But I think like offhand, Maldraxxus just seems right for him because he just would not back down like on what he believed in. And he was a warrior. He fought till the end. He died to the Legion. So, final person. Don't know if you've thought about this, but Illidan killed somebody pretty big. Do you know who it is offhand?
Hmm. Was it Gul'dan?
It was Gul'dan.
Ah.
Now, the odd thing about him is he's from an alternate universe. But I think we can talk about Gul'dan in general because, there was our universe's version of Gul'dan too. Where we think he'd be, I think it's really obvious. Uh, the mall.
Yeah.
um, I mean, the dude was just straight evil. He deserves to be in the mall. Um, and frankly, I'm just interested to see where they go with that. If the alternate version of Gul'dan is in the mall, or does he go to his version of the Shadowlands? Who knows? You got anything to say about that? You got any thoughts?
One thing that does come to mind, because in the last video you mentioned that demons go to the Twisting Nether, and I wonder, I'm like, would Gul'dan be considered a demon since he was such a warlock? But that's really just a thought. I'm not gonna say, like, try to convince
Hmm.
you otherwise, but it was something that came to mind that it could be a possibility that he was just so into Fel that he pretty much was a demon. But other than that, though, yeah, I would say it would be the Maw, because unlike someone like Kael'thas, I don't think Gul'dan has anything redeemable about him. He sucks
No,
people's
I mean,
souls to power a portal to kill
well,
people.
okay, so yeah, like in our version of Gul'dan, he he was he was evil. Like you never played Warcraft 1 or 2, but he was evil. In fact, I think he was only in 2 cuz 1 barely had a story if I recall right. But anyway, yeah, so I think it'd be interesting to see, do we get the alternate version and the regular version? I mean, definitely. I would say this. The version from Warlords of Draenor and Legion probably not quite as evil as the one from our universe, but still very evil. Just very evil.
Now this is just me being, I guess, a bit more of a noob. So what would make him different?
Just the extent of how far he was able to go. So this is a lot to get into. So I'll give you the cliff notes. Our universe's version lived a lot longer, and so he was able to do a lot more. Does that make sense?
It does.
That's
I could say it
probably
makes
the
sense.
easiest way I could say it. But like for instance, our version created the Dark Portal. Helped create it and set it up by sacrificing souls and everything to it. I say created it, but essentially he's the one who got it up and running for the demons. So in addition to that, he lived longer and he came over to Azeroth and did a lot. The version from Draenor comes over to Azeroth and gets killed pretty quickly into the process by Illidan. So I just think, I guess, like I said, it's the extent of how far he was able to go.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I feel like it would still count either way to the Maw, because the alternate Gul'dan would go the same way. It's just he wasn't able to. But that's something that's a little harder to
Yeah,
go with. So I don't think we should probably uh, stress too much about figuring the difference out. But
yeah, they're both evil. They're both going to the mall.
yeah,
Let's just say it
yeah.
that way.
If they aren't at the Maw, then I would say in the Twisting Nether, and that's about it. I wouldn't go any farther than that.
Yep. Um. All right. Well, I think we've pretty much covered the characters we wanted to cover for this expansion. Um. We realize that we're missing characters. That's fine. We don't want to spend hours making videos about every character who died because some of them are going to take forever. So we're going to stick with ones that we think are important, that would be interesting to run into, or that we just like ourselves. So that's why we stuck with these 5, and we hope you enjoyed this video. We will do another one, a follow-up, which will be, we're probably gonna combine Warlords of Draenor with Mists. We'll see. There's just not as many characters there to throw out, especially because we really don't know what happens to the characters from the alternate version of Draenor. So there's
And those are the two expansions he and I have very minimal
that's
experience
very
with.
true. I quit playing at Cataclysm and didn't pick back up until Legion. But anyway, yep, we'll probably combine those two, and we'll probably do bigger videos for some of the big names, because in some of the expansions, not so many people died. So we'll do bigger videos on those about a specific character. But anyway, we'll catch you next time. See you guys.
See ya. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comments, and goodbye.